I start, for those of you who aren't familiar with Bushfires NT, we are a division of the Department of Environment, Parks and Water Security, and we're the lead government agency for rural bushfire management in the Northern Territory. We provide fire management support to rural stakeholders and volunteer bushfire brigades, including fire management planning, training and mitigation and suppression activities. We have 20 volunteer fire brigades across the Territory, and 18 of these are located in the top end. So in this presentation, I will provide you with an overview of the top end fire season, what the landscape looked like at that time of year, and some of our major challenges. I'll give you a rundown on our wildfire mitigation outcomes in terms of planned burns and permit activities, and then I'll run over the significant events of the fire season. We'll then look at some of the new public information and warning systems and other tools that we have been using in emergency management. So going back to the start of the dry season last year, we'd just come out of another hot and dry wet season, and the top end wet season was even drier than the previous 2018 and 19 period. And across the Territory, we experienced the second hottest wet season to date. So Katherine recorded its driest ever wet season since the 1950s. And to give you an idea of just how dry it was last year, I've put up a graph from the Darwin's main water supply, the Darwin River Dam. This graph shows the annual wet season recharge that occurred completely in 2017 and 18, but recharge only reached 78% in 2019 and then 54% in 2020. So in the top left or top right, there is a wagon wheel displaying the pasture growth as of April 1st, 2020. We were looking at well below average growth across the top end, but we did have some areas in light green. We experienced a weak monsoon, but it started in late January, which was 3 weeks later than usual. And then we had a short burst of monsoon activity in April. So how did this affect fire management activities? We had less fuel, but it cured earlier. And we had prepared sites for planned burn operations, but some of these sites, because of the late rain, were covered in green grass, and some of them we couldn't access. On top of what was known as the non-soon, just before our prescribed burning window opened, the pandemic was declared, which put brakes on burning until we figured out how to safely operate in this environment. So Bushfires NT stood up an incident management team to assist the division in managing the impacts of COVID across the business. We looked at the best and worst case scenarios for the fire season. The best case was social distancing. And then we had to think of how to socially distance our operations teams and incident management teams. Specifically in the top end, our volunteer brigade members are on average 60 years old, and many of the volunteers are pushing up into the 70s and 75-year-old age bracket. So we needed to adjust our operations and interactions with our stakeholders so that we would avoid putting them at any unnecessary risk. Our worst case scenario was no capacity, no ability to burn early or respond to wildfires, but luckily we didn't face that situation. However, going back, we knew it was important to reduce the risk of late dry season wildfires as much as we could, just in case this was going to be the situation. So we decided to focus as much of our resources on planned burn operations and fire break compliance within the fire protection zones. So fire protection zones are areas in which we have our highest risk of damaging bushfires, because these are areas directly outside of major towns in the peri-urban interface. And typically this landscape consists of roughly 20 hectares to 300 hectare blocks of land with mixed land use. So think horticultural crops, grazing, Aboriginal land trusts, land for wildlife, subdivisions and recreation reserves all mixed in together. So to manage COVID, we introduced socially distanced planned burn operations, which can be difficult when you're working up to 200 vehicles. So that just meant that people had to walk more. Our media and comms team put together some really great videos on how to correctly wipe down vehicles and equipment, and we bought boxes and boxes of sanitary supplies. We only contacted our stakeholders by phone or video conference, and we offered one-on-one training and support sessions to fire wardens. So we ramped up our compliance and enforcement actions, and in 3 weeks, we developed a digital solution for fire break inspections. The solution developed was a basic survey on the Esri survey and collector mobile applications. And we offered landholders that were impacted financially by COVID access to vouchers to get their fire breaks installed. The fire break program was hugely successful. So our officers inspected 6,000 properties in the top end, including around Katherine, Batchelor, and the Darwin rural area. We completed 3 inspection rounds, and in the first round, we found 800 non-compliant, which meant that 800 properties did not have their fire breaks installed to required standard. But in the second round, this reduced to 300 non-compliant, and by the third round, there were less than 60 non-compliant properties. So overall, last year, we spent most of our time in the rural subdivisions because, as I mentioned before, that's where our highest risk of damaging wildfires are. We issued 2,141 permits to burn in the top end, which is 600 more than last year, indicating that people were taking up this opportunity to undertake mitigation. By the end of the fire season, bushfires had declared 24 fire ban periods commencing on the 4th of July to the 14th of September, with the largest sustained period of high fire danger from the 24th to the 14th of September. In this period, we responded to 201 wildfires, and we assisted the Northern Territory Fire and Rescue Service with a further 14 fires in the Darwin and Katherine areas. So bushfires operated an incident management team at our headquarters throughout the fire danger period, and during the fire ban periods, Northern Territory Fire and Rescue Service and the Department of Education during school days ensured a liaison officer attended the IMT with bushfire volunteers also assisting in these roles. An interagency emergency operations centre was established to support us through a prolonged fire weather event that started on the 26th of August. And this emergency operations centre involved across government resources from police, parks and wildlife, Department of Infrastructure, Department of Education, Territory Response Group, which are also known as the TRG, and also Commonwealth Defence came to help us coordinate the response. They had drone detecting units. And you can see in this picture a snapshot of our incident management team at work with the police, and we've got Army in there as well. So due to the high fire danger period, we contracted an extra 2 fixed-wing water bombing tractors to augment the 3 fixed-wing planes we have available. And on the 24th of August, we deployed aviation resources to support NTFRS when the incident controller suspended the aircraft, because which was 4 planes and 2 helicopters from aerial bombing, because there was a drone was spotted on the fire ground. So nothing bad happened, but the drone was landed, and that's why we had a drone detection unit embedded into our emergency operation team. So here's a list of some of our fires of significance in the peri-urban areas south of Darwin. So here you can see a long fire scar spanning from the Arnhem Highway and across through to the Howard River, impacting on really high dense subdivisions, lots of assets in this area. And this is something that we faced through the season because areas that were typically wet had completely dried out, so fires were sneaking along in creek beds and typical bogs and swamps. So the Heathers Lagoon or Lake Bennett fire was another significant event in late August. So it started on the 24th of August and it burnt over 4 days. At its worst, the fire danger rating was catastrophic, and the fire threatened houses, banana crops and subdivisions that are located on steep hilly country. Gamba grass is problematic in the area as well, and we ended up having a total of 41 personnel, including firefighters, incident controllers, logistics, and additional 32 appliances attend this incident over the 4 days. On top of that, we had 10 individual aircraft working this fire ground, moving in between 8 other incidents. So here you can see, I think this was taken on the second day. Fires quite large, spanning through the landscape. It's a very hilly country in there, very difficult to manage fires. This image was taken on the second or third day, but you can see the intensity of this fire moving across the landscape. And so it's moving away from the fire break, and not all the fire breaks there were that good. So they were like goat tracks in a lot of places. And this is the fire scar after the 4 days. So this is basically spanning from Lake Bennett through to the Marakai track. And the perimeter of this fire ground was about 54 kilometres. While those 9 other fires were going on during this prolonged fire event, we also had 3 large landscape scale fires. There was the Doris Vale Road to Upper Daly Aboriginal Land Trust. So this fire travelled over 50 kilometres and was 14 kilometres in width. So we were monitoring this over a couple of weeks, and the fire is actually the scar that you can see in yellow. So that was an August event. We also had 2 fires north and south of Litchfield National Park. And we worked closely with the rangers to monitor the situation by performing morning, midday and evening flyovers, because there was a potential for the fire to the south to breach an early burn scar, and then again the fire to the north to creep in and then start to impact on tourism. But luckily it really did stay out of the park for the most part. And then we had another significant fire over at Mary River East. So this fire, you can see the yellow fire scar is quite extensive, and it burnt over 2 weeks. And you can imagine at this time there was a lot of smoke across the top end landscape. So this shows the total burnt area by year comparison, and you can see in the Vernon Arafura and Arnhem regions, approximately just slightly more burnt in the late dry season this year compared to last year. Overall, it wasn't as much, but we didn't see much activity in the Gulf region or the Victoria River District. So that's a wrap for our 2025 season. But before I finish, I just wanted to quickly talk about a new technology, or the new technology that we've been using to help us coordinate emergencies. So our ability to keep the community informed and ultimately safe is greatly attributed by public information and warnings. And over the last few years, bushfires have started to adopt new ways to communicate fire risk to the community. And I just wanted to show you how valuable social media has been in achieving this. Here you can see an advice message about a fire in Batchelor. Advice messages are in the lowest level of alert that we publish. So it goes advice, watch and act, emergency warnings. And so for this minor event, and it was a minor fire, we reached 56,000 people. And all of our warning messages can be generated through an emergency management system called BEMS online. So we use templated messages to enable us to quickly push out information to the community and to keep consistent messaging. Bushfires NT also published these same advice and warning messages on the Police, Fire and Rescue Services fire incident map. So if you live in the top end, you've most likely been to the fire incident map. And at the end of 2020, we introduced some new features to the incident map. So these features provide us with the ability to publish burnt area extent for wildfires and the location of our planned burn activities. So previously we could only display points. So we can only publish this information if we have the intelligence to do so, but so you'll most likely see polygons or burnt areas on your watch and act advice and emergency warnings during the fire danger period. We have also started to utilise what's known as Fire Mapper. So Fire Mapper allows firefighters to mark up their location, any hazards on the fire ground, and take photos and send this back to the Incident Control Centre so that the incident management team have much more situational awareness of what's going on in the fire ground and how better to support them. We can also see where our appliances are on the ground or in the air. So for safety reasons, that's really valuable. So in this slide on the left-hand side, if you were in your vehicle, for example, you could grab your iPad and you look at the map and you could use your finger to draw in, a weak point in the boundary, or take a photo and then send it back to the incident management team. So it has been fantastic in being able just to get a better understanding of what's happening. So that is all I have time for today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you to Maggie. Next up, we have the...
So before...
Thank you, Maggie. Next up, we have the Wardekken Rangers, based out at Thamarrurr in Arnhem Land. They are a small Indigenous ranger group who are working within Arnhem Land Fire Management Abatement program in the northern extent of the West Arnhem Land Fire Abatement Project area. Today, they will provide with us a summary of their fire management activities and learnings for 2020.
Ms Anna, I work for Wardekken Management as a Thamarrurr Ranger. My name is Stella Thomas. I'm the Thamarrurr Ranger Coordinator at Thamarrurr, and I work with Tanisha.
My name is Torsten Unnasch. I'm a ranger coordinator from Thamarrurr, and I work with all the buildings which are outside at the moment. Right, good day everyone. We are the Wardekken team from Thamarrurr today, and just want to give you a little review about our fire season 2020. And the first one is just a little overview. We're talking about how big our area is and what we did from April to December. It's actually, 8 months of the year we are dealing with fires, and going straight into media of the road. And this is our Wardekken IPA. So as you can see, Thamarrurr in the north, Mamnoy east, Double Warminu in the more or less south of our IPA. And the area is about more than 40,000 square kilometers, what means it's a huge area to look after. And with a minimum of access road or tracks. So most of the time we are just in helicopters in terms of firefighting, in terms of weed, and in terms of secure asset too. And our fire season actually starts every year more or less early April. So what we're trying first is to, let's say, consult people, TOs and elders and people who are living on a land or just they are away, but maybe we have to look after. What Wardekken does is actually we're looking after a couple of outstation, 7 outstation, sacred sites or rock art sites, and plenty of entwinning patches to make sure to prevent them from incoming fire over the year. So this year, when we talk about challenges with just the COVID-19 year, so we were actually locked down in Arnhem Land too. So our biggest challenge was to get a job done with less people as we normally have for. In the end, we could manage to secure 7 outstation, more than 20 rock art sites, and plenty of unfinished patches. Our goal, our aims in terms of the ground burning or burning in general is to burn as early as possible. Just the reason for is actually that we get a sort of a nice patchy mosaic burning done, which it sounds good from the start, but the problem is actually, well, not the problem, challenge is the huge workload, because you have to repeat every day, more or less every week, is around Thamarrurr and our area we're looking after. So the ground burning normally take place in terms of heaps of walking, quad bikes, utes and stuff, as you can see on a picture over here. After this, to get access to the big area we have to look after, we're always using chopper forts. In 2020, actually, with COVID-19, the big impact of COVID-19, but we've been on a lucky side because we could manage to have actually a helicopter base for about 3 months on our IPA, and helimaster, Donald Sullivan, by the way. And so we got done over 10,000 kilometers helicopter burning out in, yeah. After this pre-burning, aerial burning actually, so the hardest time starts. Our suppressed wildfire season normally starts August to December. We try to prevent as much as we can fires or wildfires, but it's just yeah, it's a bit of a creepy game to do this. And as you can see, in the end, from August to December, 6 months, only 6 months, it's been really, really hard time, and we managed to get done 46 wildfires, and yeah, only 5,000 ranger hours and more or less 600 shop hours to get the job done and to prevent wildfires to destroy our IPA. And the result, the positive result was compared to the amount of wildfires, that only just less than 3% of our IPA got burned, which is actually my eyes, our eyes, a really, really good result. And but we have to face heaps of challenges to get this sort of result. And for example, just the weather change. From my perspective, I've been on a job more or less 2.5 years here. And when I had a look on the numbers in the years before, so the weather changed in terms of it got hotter, drier, and much more windier. It's a perfect fire condition, actually, you don't really need. And another one is actually, especially on our operation sound, it's about Mammadawari in the north, that we have to face from August to October, November, over 70% of our fires we were fighting is just man-made, which is it's not really, really good, and it's a big, big challenge, because it means the less people we have to do the fire, to get the fire done, it's a huge workload for everyone, for all the remaining people who've been on the fire. So actually, we used to fight fire in only 4-man, 1 chopper teams, and a couple of fires were really, really big. So big thank you for all the people who've been involved in this sort of work, and it's heavy and really difficult, I can tell you this. Another one is actually in the same time, sometimes we had to deal with multiple fires. You know, it's just one fire popped up, another one popped up in another area, and we're just chasing fires more or less without a break. So which is really, really challenging, and we try to prevent this year this sort of situation. The coping strategies actually we have in mind are, or we actually used last year with we were highly dependent to work with other ranger groups, in this case actually Jalk and Jaemie. We really appreciate this, and it was sometimes game changers. It was really good to have these guys, professional guys on board, to get our fires done, or let's say to prevent our IPA from a fire which came from the north side or other side, whatever. And what we also did in, let's say the lack of manpower we had, so we implement more strategical back burning more than normal, because maybe you can imagine if you have just 4 or maybe 6 guys in one helicopter, and you have to face this, as you can see on the picture, this sort of fire line, just not an area burn, which is actually wildfire, then you have to think about really, let's say, professional and set up plans as soon as possible to get this sort of fire done. So that's what we did. And a really important stuff, a really important point actually, we set up dialogue fire fighting teams too. which has been a really big help for us, especially in the background and actually on a fire later on. I just turned to Darwin.
Hey, over to us. So we would, this is the first year that we've had a Dalwin team firefighting on the fire line doing fire suppression activities, which was really fantastic. Tanisha was involved, and 5 other Dalwin or women rangers at Wardekken, with the start of a new ranger base at Thamarrurr with more experience in the fire line. The women were involved, the Dalwin were involved with fire, which was a really good help. So this was assisting with fuel runs to other fuel stations to get avgas and diesel, but also some of the Dalwin were involved in cooking meals when we had big fires based out of Thamarrurr, which was a huge help to firefighters who were fatigued coming back to the base, to a nice home cooked stew, thanks to Lorna, who's sitting here. I think you would say, Timmy, one of the best things about firefighting is, well, apart from the helicopters, by having access to country was really important. This meant that women could get out into parts of the IPA that were harder to access without firefighting, so that was a positive thing. And also a pride in protecting country, I would say. Went to the this one conference and then came home, and the very next day these women were out fighting wildfire, which was pretty impressive. I was very proud. 2021, this incoming year, is looking good for women firefighting teams. We're planning a lot more training in fire suppression, which I think will equip our teams to be able to be more prepared, which I think was probably one of the biggest challenges that we faced this season. Tim, what's the biggest challenge for you for firefighting this year? Carrying the heavy equipment over rough terrain, but also being kind of some more training for this year. Yeah, Wardekken Dalwin have experience in pre-burn, but then there's always more we can do, and more prepared is what we'll look for next year. But overall, it was fun, apart from the large scale of firefighters. But in hindsight, hey, it was a great learning experience. And watch
anyone. So what will we face, and what we're gonna do maybe for next year? My impressions are actually the challenge going to be just we're facing a longer wet season. It means so the area we're looking after will be wet for a longer time. So time pre-burn it right in time. This it probably will lead to maybe set up, not maybe set up, and just maybe August or September, because the biggest challenge up here is the wet area around. So a couple of stuff you cannot burn right in time. People just coming back September, October, and set up fires which you cannot stop. And this is actually something for a good reason in my eyes. If you want to go out for a hunt and you have grass and you know the buffaloes and pigs are along the rivers, just burn it. It doesn't make sense completely. But to avoid actually bigger fires, bigger wildfires, so we are really highly aware to get it done and set up maybe teams in between this fire season, to get out and set up artificial breaks where and place it that makes sense. And then in the end, just looking and watching the show what happens. If it comes to a man-made fire, we cannot actually stop people for doing this. And the reason for is actually what we're aiming for in terms of our rangers is actually, I call it thinking soldiers. It's just some people to set up more teams which are able to operate individuals. So you don't need actually every team need a coordinator or something. So we have enough binnings. They have heaps of experience in terms of firefighting. What we try to set up just get a bit more resilient people and people, okay, think tactical. And in terms of special strategies, we definitely will use this year actually for fighting our wildfires. And this is more or less anything we have to say at the moment. The rest will be a bit too long. And biggest point, what we try to do is on this slide, want to say thank you to all the people which been actually on the fire on the ground and all the support teams, especially from Darwin too, and especially big thank to Carl Maconian from Alpha and Name Rangers, and we had fantastic pilots, which been actually game changers sometimes. And yeah, big thank you very much for anything, and thank you for listening.
Oh, my name is Ms Anna. I work for Wardekken Management.
Thank you very much to the Wardekken Rangers. Now we'll hear from beautiful Kakadu, Stone Country. So the Kakadu National Park covers over 2 million hectares. It is listed with World Heritage for its unique natural and cultural values. Anna Pickworth is the Fire Chief Officer and will provide a summary of the 2020 burning program. Jane Blackwood, the coordinator of the Thamarrurr Rangers based in the north of the park on Mirror Country, and is also on hand to answer any questions which you may have after the presentation.
We received mapping of fire scars in the park from Jay at Darwin Centre for Bushfire Research. The mapping is very detailed and is a great tool for monitoring the progress of our burning program and for planning wildfire suppression.
This is an animation made by Jay Evans from Darwin Centre for Bushfires Research of Kakadu National Park fires in 2020. So it's showing hotspots showing up and then the resulting fine scale fire scars mapped by Jay. It's fantastic mapping. So January, February, unfortunately, we didn't get to do our wet season burning program due to issues with getting into helicopters. March and April, you can start to see a few fires lit across the park on the ground. A lot of small scale burning from the ground isn't showing up at this time of year. Once we get into May, we're starting our aerial strategic burning program. You can see small fires going out overnight lit right across the park. These start to form our strategic fire breaks. Fires are still going out overnight. We're working off barriers and then building on these strategic fire breaks as we go throughout the early dry season, finishing up in mid-July. As we get into wildfire season in August, we see fires are still lit across the park and mostly on the floodplains in the north. And some fires are lit in woodland areas and go out on our strategic breaks. A little bit of wildfire response involved, but not too much. Our late season fires continue to start and go out on our fire breaks into October, November and December. It was a good year too, as you all know. So yeah, just a good video of Kakadu National Park fires in 2020 and strategic fire breaks working to limit the spread of late season fires. And yeah, a good result and fantastic mapping from Jay.
I think we're getting the feed.
Hi, Annie here from Kakadu National Park. Just a short video of some wet season burning. Traditional owners and rangers in Kakadu use wet season burning as a technique to reduce the amount of speargrass. You can see there's dry speargrass in this area that didn't burn last year. So we use that to put a fire through the new green speargrass coming through. Then that new green grass doesn't seed. So it knocks speargrass out of that area for a couple of years, depending on the size of the area. This area received about 50 mils of rain the night before. So that old speargrass allows you to just put a fire through this area and knock speargrass out.
My name is Jenny Hunter, Senior Ranger, Victoria District. Been working 5 years now. Been a lot of fires. Last year was real, we had about 4 wildfires. At the start, we had did our usual asset burning protection, all that. We did most of all our burning. And then later on in the year, 4 separate fires came up. 1 lightning strike. That was in the hot season, so it's really really good. We actually work together with the Durable Rangers. And most of us went out on ground, Laris's and motorbike things, and up in the chopper as well. Yeah, all of that. Did have one negative thing where lost the cypress pine pot that I've been working on for 16 years now.
Yeah.
So that's all kind of destroyed. So got to start again.
Yeah.
Maybe do another 16 years, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good year. It was good to have some young people involved.
My name's Jaemie. I work in cultural heritage here in Kakadu. Yeah, so I try and focus on more art sites when we do our burning. So we don't get wildfires creeping up to some of the sites and affecting the sites. So it's really good to see this program kind of happen and work out to a point. More positives, just get more down on the ground. Bushwalks, that'd be a good thing to see this year happen a bit more. Yeah, no, it'd be good to see the young people come along and get the experience of more experienced rangers. Yeah, go from there.
My name's Thamarrrur. I'm a Sav Ranger with headquarters, and go out with Jenny and Ollie to do wet season burning, the wildfires.
Thank you to the Kakadu Rangers. Next up, we have the Thamarrurr Rangers, who are based in Warddeken on the west coast of the top end of the Northern Territory. The Thamarrurr Rangers manage over 1.8 million hectares. And today, Healthy Country Manager Jaemie Page and Ranger Uriah Crocombe will give us a summary of the Western Top End Savanna Fire Management Program that they are developing with their neighbouring ranger groups.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason Dimron, representing Thamarrrur Ranger. Been here almost 3 to 4 years now.
Hello, my name is Malcolm Martin, and I just started for the Thamarrrur Rangers. Yeah, I work in Warddeken.
Uriah, working ranger for 6 years, and we're at Jaemie Beach, not far from Warddeken.
I'd ask him to talk about a question, what this fire project thing all about.
So what is fire project really mean? What do you do? What is fire project?
Like we're trying to control about fire, no? But so the whole project is trying to talk to every art station, every group, namely understand and keep talk like keep understand what trying to do, a lot of country, like animal, plants, like thing, them dreaming, that kind of
But this fire, going on for centuries, the way people been touching that fire for later, making that fire. We like ancestors, they've been using that fire walking, like walk from long way from that area to that area. But they using that fire by mark them too, like when they burn them from where they first walk from.
Like before, we never have this rule, like before we burn grass anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when we love burning fire, especially when we go hunting. Yeah, we use that fire for hunting too.
Oh, yeah.
This side and this side, we every year nobody control them fire. The people they go drive fire, they look big grass, they chuck them matches.
Yeah.
Let them rip they go.
Like big fire, kill him everything.
Yeah.
Definitely. Change him around, because too much carbon.
With that big smoke and Crocombe thing on top.
Yeah.
It's a wind, but like not enough rain.
Yeah.
Like
And make them like blanket, like blanket on top.
The smoke, that smoke.
Yeah.
yeah, like Crocombe.
Hot one. Like suffocate them, but
Yeah.
What a big city, that using all them power. So we might be trying to help keeping that smoke there,
Oh, that's good.
So
try
that
to make less.
Less smoke.
Yeah.
we make blackfella understand that way, They keep Crocombe in a meeting.
Yeah.
Like anyway, you go visit countrymen, you talk about fire, explain it. Young fellow no say we sit and talk like get everybody involved in the project. We're all helping you, black fellow. You have to be countrymen, healthy one.
Talk like community. Yeah, what kind of to me, well, understand what is fire project all about. Yeah, we talk to them.
TOs.
Yeah, and really work better time. Like we talk to one group, talk about carving, another group, all together. It might be hard. Go out to this fire project and anybody, another rangers from other country?
Malaban do, but last year, year before, and yeah, Malaban end up. But Malaban stop at like Mimal the ranger base.
Them rangers there. Show us. Like they do, when we get up, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and then just go out that fire couldn't stop,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that cool time.
Yeah. We just want to try get bit of experience from them and try look what can other fight fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. What about helicopter? Helicopter, I mean, what that is fire project?
Yeah, definitely. Helicopter.
Yeah, helicopter. Like hunting helicopter, we take them like high country first, like long way on country. Yeah. They do early burning there because high country, right?
The first in good got Tio again, Ranger and Tio la front helicopter pointing but where the burn. More money enough from the fire project. We can burn them good way, then we go back for taking money of the helicopter. They can keep going back there, burn them up, check up again, then leftover grass there and burn them again. But a big fire might come and stop off it and build fire break.
About like for giving like say like rock painting area like inside you gotta go burn that area like clear so people can walk look at painting rock on top.
That thing here now, trying to do about the project. Instead of big fire, burn them, then painting. That's like room of job. Back burn.
Yeah, but
Protect that. Sacred site.
what did backburning mean?
So when the wind them coming, like, but a fire coming from there, burn him back. So the middle one.
Ah, yeah.
And
Like sound and the fire.
Make a fire break. Make a fire break. And then you burn them from where you make it the fire break. And then maybe you use some blower just to blow them back the line.
Oh, yeah.
And then you slowly burn back the line. As soon as that big fire comes from the line, you'll meet them up that fire and then you just die there.
Yeah. All right. Like sound and the big flame coming up.
If you don't want him to jump that side,
just haven't trying to get training.
Quick one and make him that fire.
Yeah. Use blow or other.
Like this my young boy said, Crocombe got no job. That is what I reckon. We could ask if that mob, some local mob, like an import, like this fire project. Maybe we can help them. Help them there.
Yeah. Like we get that thing and we pay them for ad station, right? For them casual. Maybe a part-time work with ranger and blah
train up,
you know, pay helicopter, that money around, you know. And a project too, trying to help. We can help him help money to him help 100 men go back to our homeland too, you know.
Yep.
Let's stay at there. We can pay them. We can pay a couple of young people the whole country. They can do burning.
Clean around the house. How much they burn a big fire? House would burn.
Yeah.
Like how long this fire project go for?
So like we're still training but we yet.
Oh yeah.
Tennessee got to run them first. If him go good, then might Tennessee might any more somebody running the carbon thing then.
Like maybe some local mob from here.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
100 men are joining, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's a good plan, Darwin.
Yeah,
what is project and happening.
Trying to get everyone involved.
Well, thank you, Paula. And
yeah, no worries. Yep. Next time, next meeting about seeing it. Yeah, come and learn more about the carbon. I'm really.
Thank you to the Thamarrurr Rangers, to actually everyone who's contributed to this last session. We've got a couple of our presenters who are actually in the studio here with me, and we've got some questions as well, but I'll throw to Anna Pickworth from the Kakadu National Park Rangers. Anna, how big do your fire breaks have to be?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In the past, we used to say make fire breaks 300, 400, 500 metres wide, and they were successful in stopping the spread of late season fires. But with this climate change, you know, the dry seasons are getting hotter and windier and longer. And in 2018, we had some late season fires, jumping fire breaks that we really thought would have held up. So in 2020, we've just tried a lot harder to just make those fire breaks, you know, a little bit wider and a bit bigger than we normally would. So yeah, kind of like 700 metres to a kilometre, just and the better job that we do into the future, it's going to be more important to do that really good job of the early dry season burning, because we've got those issues with climate change happening and the late dry seasons getting much worse.
Great, thank you. And so Torsten from the Wardekken Rangers, what type of trainings are required to create your thinking soldiers?
Yeah, thinking soldiers. Actually, I mean, it's one side just to learn your trade on a workshop, but we have a mind to set up much more sort of a mentally resilience in terms of the job, you know, just to be on a job, be reliable and act independent sometimes, because it's really, really important if you send out a couple of teams which can work completely independent from each other, because you can set up a plan altogether, but we all know the plan can change pretty quick. And this sort of, let's say, ability, something, it is hard to learn. It is hard to get it. And this is what we have in mind for this year, and take some time probably, but it will be, yeah, would be a good result if you come out with this sort of stuff.
Great, thank you. We're going to go now to Jaemie Page. Jaemie's online at the Thamarrurr Rangers. So your question to you is, can you tell us about the types of training you've done and what you would like to do?
It's actually the Rangers, Jason and Uriah, are going to talk. What training have you done?
We've done backpack loading training and how to work at pumps, fire breaks, and yeah.
Safety. Learn about safety, getting experience from other rangers. Yeah, as soon as we get our project, and we probably know what we're doing. Yeah. And,
That's
yeah,
thank you for that. I also just wanted to just get you to elaborate a bit on that, because like some of the presentations we've seen young kids in the presentation. I know a lot of my family out at Kakadu do a lot of the burning off, and you know, it's about that knowledge that we have and how important that is to pass on. So do you encourage more kids to come out with you, and how does that, what's the youngest kid you've ever seen that you've taken out on country to try and pass that knowledge on?
Take. Yeah, we could bring more young kids involved, you know, in what we're doing, and
get them involved and show them what we do. Yeah, to encourage them, so for their future, when they grow up, they might become a ranger and learn about carbon project. And teach them how to
important thing
burn
that
fire.
not only looking after country and passing on that knowledge and sharing the stories, but also you act as like a mentor or a, you know, someone who's doing good things in your community. And with the carbon projects, it's also earning money for the community as well.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to you, Anna. I remember a few years ago, they used to have the Junior Ranger program for the kids in Jabiru. Is that still going?
I think it has been going. I'm not sure if it's going exactly right now, but yeah, there's various programs happening with kids and school kids out in the park.
Yeah. I remember they would wear their blue caps, and on it was like the Junior Ranger program, and I was like, I'm an adult, but can I get one of those t-shirts and learn? But I think it's just so important, you know, to young kids that they, you know, see a lot of the positive mentors and the knowledge. You know, we can't lose that knowledge. It's important that these young kids are learning that for future generation, but also sustaining, you know, the thousands of years of knowledge that we have of culture practices. I'll go now to Maggie. So Maggie, Maggie Towers, what's your focus for 2021? Yeah, you're on mute, Maggie.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
So all year round, bushfire staff are busy delivering projects and revising our programs. And this time of year, we're focused on stakeholder engagement, and we're actually holding a fire ready week the first week of March. And so landholders can call up and book in sessions with our officers to come and do property fire management planning and bushfire survival planning. So there's a lot of projects that we are going to be working on delivering this year as well. So more broadly, last year we had a remote community bushfire risk project that ended, and we're looking at implementing some of the recommendations that came out of the project. So to give you a bit of background, the purpose of the project was to assess or complete a territory-wide audit on remote community bushfire risk. And out of that, the project officer was Rhys Swain, and a lot of the audience would be familiar with Rhys. He developed an online tool that you can actually see. It's on the ArcGIS dashboard and on the public-facing NR Maps website. And you can see high, medium and low risk communities, and this is where there's built assets. So we're looking at embedding a program across the territory in each of the regions where we'll look at tackling the high risk communities and start to work and facilitate their fire management planning there.
All right, thank you, Maggie, for that. And one last question to Jane Blackwood from the Thamarrurr Rangers. Jane, how's the wet season burning with parks gone?
Hey, can you hear me there? Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're all ready to go, Jane.
Okay. Hi, everybody, and sorry, I just am late to this meeting. How did we go with wet season burning? Well, we've had great small patches of time to get out and look for the remaining fuel from the season before. We've conducted one joint burn so far with park staff, not very distant from their headquarters, and of course we got rained out about 2 hours into our effort there. But I think the season for wet season burning will be slightly extended because of the monsoon, the good monsoon rain we're having at the moment. So we're hoping to get out a few more times. The values of the people that I work for lay mainly up against the escarpment and on the floodplain. So the floodplain is largely inaccessible during this time. So as soon as the country starts to dry out, we'll be moving or trying to get in closer to the escarpment. We've had one chopper run for several hours before the rain started again to get into the longer fuel, the speargrass patches up against the escarpment, which is where the Mirarr people's values primarily lie.
Have come through. So the Thamarrurr Rangers, one of the questions from Paul was, lots of people travel through the land trust and light fires. How many TOs identified this as an issue? And how can you get the message to people to try and stop this happening so much?
Having more meetings and more like communication, you know. Get TOs involved, yeah. Get the young ones involved. And more training. Yeah. What else?
About these movies you're making?
Yeah. Making movies.
They can see fire as two things, as, you know, fire, how it's important. We need fire, but also fire can be dangerous. And it's just
Sure, yeah.
understanding and teaching people and kids that.
Fire safety report.
We've got a good
And a
broadcast.
question to Anna. Now, I don't know what the acronyms they've put here. Do you know your EDS and LDS percentages for last year? Looks great.
Yeah, I think it was about early dry season is the EDS. I think it was about 36% early and maybe 6% late. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So we had a few late season fires that pulled up really well on our breaks. It was good weather, as we all know. We had a pretty easy season compared to previous years. Yeah, but we had very good success with our fire breaks, stopping late season fires. We did respond to a few of the fires, but only in a very small way to stop them getting through a few tiny little gaps.
All right, thank you. I think that's all the, unless anyone wanted to say anything else? No, nothing from the panelists. All the questions have come through. So what we might do is take to our, a few minutes early, our lunchtime break. So we're asking people now this early that we take a 20-minute break and to be back on time at 12:30 for our commencement of the next series of forums that we'll have. And just to let you know that during the break, we'll be playing the 2020 Savanna Fire Forum. And I hope to see you soon. Have your cup of tea and have your biscuits and sandwiches, and we'll see you back soon.
I get a real big boost hearing what other good work all the rangers and the Aboriginal rangers that are doing.
The Fire Forum this year has clearly been the biggest ever.
Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people coming together and finding a way to bring that knowledge.
We're all involved in the Savanna burning industry. So there's Indigenous rangers here, there's pastoralists, there's federal and state government agencies, there's researchers, there's scientists. We all get together and we discuss how we can better manage fire and how we can better do early burning.
Fire, keeping our knowledge strong, and we keep that fire, keep burning on our heart. Fire has always played a part in our cultural history.
It's a spiritual connection to our life, but also you need to have a clear understanding how to use this fire for managing the country. I was the first person to get these programs up and running and sharing our momentum to the rest of the Northern Australia. And now we're participating in carbon initiative programs across in Northern Australia.
We've fundamentally changed the fire regime on Cape York in the last 5 or 6 years. The early dry season's gone up to 15%, but the late dry season has dropped from 41% down to 23%. So we've almost halved the late dry season fires. What that basically means is with a little bit of cool fire, we've reduced a lot of hot fire, and that's saved emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and also generated revenue under the Emissions Reduction Fund.
The fire is just, I don't know, it's just everything to us. So and we've been doing it for thousands of years, and we'll continue doing fire management.
I'm Rowan Fisher, a researcher with the Darwin Centre for Bushfires Research at Charles Darwin University. One of my roles is to do all of the North Australia fire information burnt area mapping for the Northern Territory and the majority of Western Australia. What we're looking at is a comparison of the number of fires or fire frequency from the 7 years from 2000 to the last 7 years. And we can see all the green areas are where there's been a decrease in late dry season fires over an area of 361,000 square kilometres. And there's been a decrease in all fires of over 340,000 square kilometres, 1.5 times the size of Victoria. It's the change that's been achieved by fire managers. And for me, that's just a staggering achievement to see this sort of continental scale change. It always blows my mind. I mean, I'm watching from satellite what everyone's doing each year, and then to see it displayed like this is incredible.
I'm John Connor, CEO of the Carbon Market Institute.
I've come here to this Savanna Fire Forum to learn about the practices that are here across the top end of Australia, which are significant globally, because what we're learning here applies across the Savanna, around the world, but also a very significant player in the Australian carbon market.
We are sharing Australian, but also in international areas, such as Botswana, and other places that are interested.
In Botswana, they do a lot of suppression work, and we're trying to, I'll visit there, get them introduced to early dry season burning we do up here, and save them a lot of time and money. We're going to show the lovely people of Botswana how we burn Aussie style. Here we are, Team Australia, demonstrating how to light fire properly, using the wind to our advantage, but the normal stuff we do back home here in Australia. And yeah, just show them Botswanians how it's done properly, using the wind to your advantage.
Fire and people like a sport. If kangaroo wins, you get burned. If you win, kangaroo get burned.
What nice? Enjoying yourself? I enjoy myself. Going to my little 5 minutes back home. Yeah. I really like it. They're saying we don't use much money. Well, people, Italy, look for.
I think Australian methodology is one of the best example in this century now.
I'm from New South Wales and I live in a community that's had bushfires over the last 2 months. We've had people's properties, farms burnt out. We've lost 1 billion wildlife. There's a lot of Indigenous communities in Southern Australia who are so keen to get back on the land, similar to what these guys are doing up here.
We've been burning through New South Wales and some in Victoria, but mainly around New South Wales, and doing a lot of burns in that country in the drought times. And it's all those areas we burnt, the big fire went straight around them and they didn't get affected. Since those large fires happened, we've got so many people now interested in Indigenous knowledge. We've been shouting for so long, but now they're all interested from all over the world coming in. Oh, you know, we want to learn. We've got the farmers and private landholders say, you can burn on my property. They're saying, please burn on my property and all this stuff. And so we've got community coming together. So I've come here today to talk to you about bringing top and bottom together and join it all up. Let Aboriginal people help each other. Let's rebuild our knowledge on this nation the way the old people done in the past.
People need to wake up and give our hand together and support and do our better management. I think there's a role for us, everyone, to play to make the country, especially in Australia, secure